All right, let's get right into it. If you've ever tried building an AI agent for real-world use, you know the feeling, right? You get that amazing demo working and it feels like magic. But then, you try to put it into production and things start to fall apart. Well, today, we're going to unpack a methodology that's built to fix exactly that, the 12-factor agent methodology. It's basically a blueprint for building AI that's not just cool, but actually reliable and ready for business.
And this quote from Dex Horthy, who created this whole framework, it hits the nail on the head. Here's the surprising secret. Most of the AI products that actually work in the real world aren't these wild, free-thinking agents we see in sci-fi. Nope. They are incredibly well-engineered pieces of software where LLMs are used very precisely, in just the right spots. That's a huge idea, and we're going to keep coming back to it.
So why does this matter so much? It comes down to this number right here, 80%. This is the quality wall. It's the point where most agent projects just get stuck. It's good enough to look impressive in a demo, for sure, but it is absolutely not good enough for customers who are paying for something that works every single time. Getting past this 80% wall is the challenge.
So here's our game plan to get you over that wall. First, we'll talk about the problem everyone faces, that production nightmare. Then we'll cover the huge mindset shift you need to make. After that, we get super practical. We'll look at stabilizing your first agent, scaling up with a modular design, the big trade-offs you'll have to make as an architect, and finally, the most important part, what's your very first step?
So let's just start by acknowledging the frustration. I mean, the dream of AI agents is massive, right? A system that can think and plan and just get things done. But the reality? For so many of us, it feels like a one-way ticket to a dead end.
Does this little journey look familiar to you? It starts with the dream. Just give an LLM a goal, a few tools, and watch the magic happen. But then reality hits. You smack right into that 70 or 80% quality bar where it just starts failing in weird, unpredictable ways. And the worst part? You end up fighting the very framework you chose, trying to figure out its hidden prompts. And honestly, a lot of the time, you just scrap it and start over.
Okay, so how do we escape this loop? Well, it all starts with a really fundamental shift in how we think about this stuff. This is the absolute core of the 12-factor agent idea. We have to stop treating this like we're coaxing some magical black box and start treating it like what it is, a serious software engineering problem.
And this quote just says it all. That popular pattern of, here's a prompt, here are some tools, now just loop until you're done, that's a great starting point for a prototype, but it's not a strategy for production. The agents that actually work are carefully designed software systems. The LLM is just one component inside that system, a really powerful one for sure, but it's not the whole shebang. This table just lays out the shift perfectly. We're moving away from thinking of our agent as a chatbot with its unpredictable loops and free-form text. Instead, we're building a software component. That means deterministic execution, structured inputs and outputs, and our own version-controlled code instead of some black box framework. We are literally swapping magic for engineering.
And, this isn't some crazy new concept we just invented. It's a proven idea that's been borrowed from fields like robotics. For years, roboticists have known you can't build a complex robot from scratch every time. It's just not reliable. You build it from standardized, reusable, totally predictable components. We're just taking that exact same thinking and applying it to AI.
Okay, so theory is great, but how do we put this engineering mindset into practice? Well, the 12-factor approach is all about a progressive rollout. You don't have to boil the ocean and do all 12 things at once. You start by just making the core of your agent stable and predictable.
And that process builds up over 4 really critical phases. First, you tame the inputs and outputs. You bring structure to the chaos. Second, you secure the brain, the actual reasoning core of the model. Third, you unify how it handles state to make it rock solid. And finally, you lay the groundwork to decentralize and scale up. Let's dig into each of these.
Step 1 is all about structure. So, according to Factor 1 of the framework, instead of having a long, rambling chat with your agent, the very first thing you do is translate the user's request directly into a structured command. And here's the kicker. From Factor 4, you force your agent to only talk to its tools using strict JSON schemas. No more freeform text. This is what gives you predictable, deterministic code execution.
Next up, you have to take control of the LLM itself. Factor 2 tells us to treat our prompts like code. That means they live in Git, you write tests for them, you manage them, and this one is huge. You have to actively manage the context window, which is what Factor 3 is all about. If you just keep stuffing the entire conversation history in there, you will hit what's called the dumb zone, where the model's performance just tanks. You have to be a curator of that context.
All right, step 3 is where we get really reliable. Instead of this messy, stateful loop that lives in memory, you redesign the whole thing to be a stateless function. Think of it like a reducer. The current state plus a new event gives you the new state. And, this is factor 5, you write every single one of those events to a database. The payoff is massive. If your server crashes, you can restart from the exact same spot. And you get time travel debugging, where you can literally replay the events that caused a bug. It's a lifesaver.
So once you've stabilized that one agent using those first principles, the next challenge is always scale. How do you go from one little reliable agent to a huge complex system that can power an entire enterprise? The answer, as you might guess from the framework, is modularity.
Look, a single, monolithic God agent that tries to do everything is doomed to fail. It's going to get confused by too many tools, too much context, so Factor 10 says the solution is to break it down. You decompose it into a network of small, specialized agents that each do one thing and do it really, really well. It's basically microservices, but for AI agents.
And this chart, which comes from robotics engineering, shows exactly why this is so powerful. Look at that. The biggest win for software reuse, a whopping 65%, comes from what they call vertical components. Now, in our world, a vertical component is a specialized, domain-specific agent. It's your triage agent that just routes tasks, or your search agent that only knows how to find information. That's where you get the most bang for your buck.
But building a system like this isn't just about following a checklist. It puts you in the architect's seat. And that means you have to make some really critical, sometimes tough decisions about how all these little agents are going to work together, from their overall structure down to the nitty-gritty of how they communicate.
And the first biggest question you're going to face is this one. Do I stick with my single, monolithic agent, or is it time to break this thing apart into a modular system? And the answer, of course, is it depends.
So here's a quick cheat sheet for that trade-off. A monolithic agent is totally fine, maybe even better when your tasks are simple, they don't need a lot of context, and latency has to be super low. But the second your agent needs to do complex reasoning, or you need to scale it across multiple teams and functions, you pretty much have to go modular. It lets you contain failures, so if one agent breaks, the whole system doesn't go down. And it lets your teams work in parallel.
Okay, I know that was a fire hose of information. So let's bring this all home and figure out the most important question. Where should you start? The best part about the 12-factor agent methodology is that it's not an all-or-nothing deal.
Think of these 12 factors like a toolkit. You just pick the tool that solves your biggest headache right now. Are your prompts flaky and unpredictable? Go straight to Factor 2 and get them into version control. Need a human to sign off on things? Implement Factor 7 and just make Ask a Human another tool call. Drowning in debugging nightmares? Factor 5, unifying the state, will be your new best friend. And if you're just worried about crashes and reliability, Factor 6, which lets you pause and resume agents, is the place to go. Find your biggest pain point and start right there.
And really, that brings us to the final, most important question. The one big takeaway here is that AI agents are not magic. They're software. So the question I want to leave you with is this. Are you building yours with the discipline, the structure, and the rigor that real software engineering demands?